So we have the idea that we need e-learning, okay? So where do we start? And here are a few examples where we might feel like we need e-learning. So first example is the one which is very common nowadays. Face-to-face training has stopped. So should we move all of it to e-learning course, right? Or maybe a video conference is enough. So what I want to say is that we need to think this through. Before running to making an e-learning course, we really need to think about alternatives. Because in our experience, creating e-learning content is very time-consuming, and it's a big investment in terms of time and resources. Our very rough estimate for 1 hour of e-learning, if you create everything from scratch, is 200 to 250 hours of development. It includes script writing, design, graphical design, e-learning development, quality assurance, review rounds, project management, etc. So it's a big investment. Another example where we feel we might need e-learning is that management says that we need an e-learning, right? And before jumping on to making an e-learning course, we should be very careful, and we should make sure, at least this is how I see a good line of thought, is that are the management, is the management aware of the other options for solving learning needs? Do they know that building a course takes a lot of time and resources? And so it's, again, very important to think. Next example of where we might need an e-learning is a compliance issue. Okay, so for example, you work in a bank and you need to train all your colleagues on anti-money laundering procedures, and it's required by law. This sounds like a legitimate argument, but then again, we should think about, is e-learning in this case the most efficient way to comply with the legal requirements? In very many ways it will be, but in some ways it won't. If for example, the bank is very small, it doesn't necessarily need, not always we will need a separate custom-made e-learning course. Maybe we will need a legal document and a summary, and the employees need to sign it. In some cases, I have seen AML courses where you have like 100-page page flipper where you just need to go from one page to another with the next button. I believe the learning value is very close to having a summary with a signature to such e-learning course where there's no interactivity, no learning, and no tasks. Okay. Another example where we might need an e-learning course is, hey, we had an e-learning course before, let's make a new one, right? It sounds logical, but then again, processes change, businesses change, organizations change. Maybe we had a course before, but now maybe we have an opportunity to create a new method or new process that will become more intuitive, and maybe learners will understand it like this. And instead of just creating new e-learning content, we always need to think maybe we can just update the process, and then there is no need for a course. Sometimes a poster on the wall will work just fine. I was telling an example that we have been approached by a manufacturing company who have 1,000 employees working in a plant, and when asked if they have technology access, they said they had 2 computers and they can allow their employees to visit those computers one by one. And then we suggested that, hey, maybe you don't need an e-learning, or maybe not all of your learning needs to be e-learning. Some of it can be just posters, because those posters on the wall will probably get more eyeballs than that e-learning course that you will show to your employees for 30 minutes per year. So that's another example for an alternative. Sometimes we don't need e-learning, we just need to change internal procedure, make it more intuitive. Because my fundamental belief is that we shouldn't create e-learning or learning for itself. If we can make something more simple by design, where e-learning is no longer necessary, then that's much better than creating something crappy and then adding an e-learning course to it. Sometimes a good email or video is just enough. We can just send a video or a very good email and that will be fine, and we don't need an e-learning course. Sometimes we need a one-page explanation and a signature from an employee that he or she has understood and will comply. So this is a compliance issue. Sometimes an infographics will work just fine. And sometimes, frankly, we just need to tell the management or the client just to back off, because not everything can be solved by e-learning. Okay, but there are cases when e-learning is necessary, right? So, for example, we have identified a learning gap, and after doing analysis, we are sure that an e-learning course is the best way how to meet learners' needs. And then we should create an e-learning course.